Welcome to week 5 of Signs and Symbols Enhancing Science Instruction through Literacy in the MCCS Era. We are on social cognitive theory, and social cognitive theory is also known as Albert Bandura's social learning theory. So we need to think about what learning is and what some mediators of learning are from a social cognitive theory perspective. So Bandura's theory emphasizes the role of context and the environment in learning and states that some portion of what is learned is gained through observation. So in terms of what we learn, we can think about what others do as well as the consequences of their behavior and the fact that we're able to observe this. We also think about what our expectations are about what might happen as a consequence of our behavior. And again, this can come from what we have observed in others and what those consequences are. We also need to think about our beliefs about ourselves, what we feel we can or can't do. And all of these things play a role in what we ultimately choose to do or how we choose to act in the environment. So modeling is a very important part of this theory. Learning through modeling in general is the behavioral, cognitive, and affective changes that come from observation of one or more models. So changing our behavior, changing how we think about something, or changing how we feel about something. And we can all think of examples of this that happen in our everyday lives. Sometimes we equate modeling with imitation. However, modeling is a larger process that includes the cognitive side as well. So we need to keep in mind that we're thinking about how this is changing our thinking and not just our behavior. So again, it's the behavioral, cognitive, and affective or emotional changes that can derive from observing one or more models. Observers are more likely to attend to models who display behaviors that observers believe are important and find self-satisfying. In this case, value refers to the perceived importance or usefulness of something. So values can be measured either by external standards, something like making the honor roll or getting good grades, or internal standards, feeling good about an achievement or feeling that we've really learned or mastered something. Each learner has their own set of value preferences, and being aware of them affects our effectiveness in instruction. Sometimes these values will be based on cultural differences and stereotypes. So it's important to keep in mind what our students may value and that their values might differ from ours. It is also important to note that the consequences to the models convey information about appropriateness and probable outcomes, so both positive and negative. Remember, part of social learning theory is that we're observing others and what they're doing and seeing if how they behave is leading to successful outcomes for them or not, or for them to achieve things that we ourselves find valuable. And this becomes important because this part of social cognitive learning will occur in our classrooms naturally. Students will have values and they will learn from us and from each other, so we need to be aware of our learners. With our first two topics, so information processing and metacognition, we were focused on what the learner is doing in terms of taking in and processing information to then act on the environment. So as I've been saying, social cognitive theory expands that view to include the impact of the environment, or thinking about more about how the role others play in our learning, specifically observation of others. So some terms that we will use to refer to this are enactive and vicarious learning. Enactive learning occurs when a learner is doing something. Vicarious learning occurs when the learner is watching or observing, so the learning that occurs due to modeling is vicarious learning. Most complex skills are acquired through a combination of enactive and vicarious learning. We see someone else model the behavior, then practice it ourselves, or maybe we are struggling to master a skill, and then we observe someone else modeling the skill effectively. Due to our initial struggle, we are able to attend to the useful parts of the model. We then are able to return to our own learning by doing with more success. Another important part of learning from this perspective is cognitive modeling. Cognitive modeling is an explanation or demonstration accompanied by verbalization of the thoughts and reasons behind statements or actions that you're taking. So basically, it's a think aloud while you're doing something. The explanation or demonstration on its own would be more like didactic instruction. Cognitive modeling is more effective than explanation alone or didactic instruction for both achievement and self-efficacy. And we haven't talked a lot about self-efficacy, but that's another important part of social cognitive theory. And self-efficacy is basically our feeling of whether or not we can do something. It is important then for the model to convey information about why they are doing what they were doing, so providing thoughts and reasons for performing given actions. One strong technique that can be used in cognitive modeling is to build errors into the model to see if learners identify them and can deal with them, or to explicitly show the problem-solving behavior necessary to deal with errors. So how might I go about searching for information or reading something or writing something? What do I do when I run into problems, and modeling that process for students? We are more likely to attempt learning actions later when we have seen them generate success for a model. When using cognitive modeling in the classroom, be sure to provide multiple models, so not just yourself. And in this way, the use of peer models can be important. So students who are able to accomplish the goal or solve a problem, but also students who may struggle but then find ways of coping with that struggle can be important for other students to observe. And this relates to something we'll talk a little bit more about next week when we talk about social constructivism, but this idea of working with peers and working in groups. So we have some classroom examples for you. Given the benefits of modeling, let's look at some examples of ways that we can use this tool for some of the more challenging skills students need to master in science. So we have example 1 on digital literacy, example 2, designing and carrying out experiments. And as you watch the videos, we would also ask you to think about some things like what specific actions is the teacher taking that act as a model for students, and what do you think students will take away from the modeling that is happening in these videos. There's also another optional video posted that talks a little bit more about social cognitive theory and goes some more into the background, and also talks a little bit more about Dr. Albert Bandura's role. So if this is a theory that particularly interests you, or if you just feel like you need a little more information besides this in the reading, I would encourage you to also take a look at that video. It's relatively short, under 5 minutes. So thank you, and we will talk again next week.